Hi, everyone. My name is Vicky Essebag, and I'm here with my wonderful friend, Tara Gretton. And we're having a lovely conversation, as always. And what we're talking about today, we're still bringing you power bursts about schools. And what we're talking about today is the value of solution focus in schools. So we were just having more of a general conversation. What happens when we bring solution focus into a school environment and start having conversations with students, for example, about what solution focus is and how to think in a solution focused way, right? So the question that we have for you today is, what is the value in learning about solution focus in schools and beyond? And I'm posing that question to Tara today, and Tara's going to respond to that question for us. So Tara, all yours.
Thanks, Vicky. I was sharing with Vicky that yesterday I had the absolute privilege to train about 20 young people aged 16 to 18. So that's sort of seniors in Canada, and in the UK it's year 11 and 12, so sixth form students. So this was at our wonderful solution-focused school, Beecham Cliff, here in Bath. And so we've done it in the past, but we really, this year, it was kind of one of our sort of real best hopes was to train more students in the solution-focused approach. And what we've done in the past is invited the sort of the senior prefects to come and do that, and the sort of solution-focused mental health prefect. But this time we kind of opened it up to everybody. And yeah, it was great that so many of them wanted to come, and we've also some people that couldn't make it, they want to come another time, so there's going to be another session in the future. So that in itself is just wonderful, and kind of walking into a room full of young people yesterday was such a privilege and such a joy. And in the beginning asking them, what are your hopes from coming today, for and from it, and just like them sharing their curiosity and wanting to learn more, wanting to find ways that they could support students in the lower school, and also thinking about ways that they can support themselves around sort of managing and coping with everyday life. So I just get really excited about sharing solution-focused approach. It's one thing to be able to use it in a coaching setting or therapeutically, as I do, but to actually share what it is, to do it as sort of, educationally, is just such a wonderful experience. Particularly yesterday, I really loved it was quite interactive and asking them lots of questions. So I was really impressed with how they just openly engaged in and with that, but seeking their sort of feedback throughout. And they asked some really good questions. When I sort of started explaining what underpin, the assumptions of solution focused and how we focus on what's wanted and what's working. And one student said to me, well, I wasn't expecting that. I wasn't expecting that, and it's like, really, like, why are we not talking about the problem? Why are we not analysing? Surely that's what we need to do. Where does the problem kind of go? If it was just brilliant, and I was like, whoa, I love it. Yeah. And being able to have that interaction with them, to kind of discuss with them, well, actually, within solution focus, there is lots of space for the problem to be talked about, that it's not that we are problem phobic, that we're totally ignoring the problem, but we don't analyze it and we don't ask why, and why don't you ask why? It was just brilliant. And kind of met with, kind of like, this is not what I was expecting, and how does this work? So being able to share with them, that, how there's lots of space to listen to problems. And acknowledging that a lot of young people, children that might come into a coaching or therapeutic setting, or into a conversation with a person, as it might happen with these students, because they're going to be supporting students, that it might be the first time that they've spoken to somebody about something that's difficult. So, it's just really great to acknowledge that is really important, and giving them the space. But it's then how we move from that. So if things were a little bit better, what would be happening instead? And they were like, oh yeah, okay. And then they did some exercises where they got to experience it with each other, and just from that sort of beginning to their curiosity, their skepticism, and then their understanding, and them experiencing it with each other, but still kind of like pushing me and being kind of like, okay, tell us a little bit more about that. And to the end, that asking them, what do you take away from it? And they shared, one person said that actually, to listen, that actually that you're not listening out for that sort of cause and effect, but to listen to somebody, particularly with an ear about what they want and also what's working. It's just changes how I intend to listen to people. And somebody else said, almost the relief of like being able to focus on the small. She's like, like such a, and somebody else, we're talking about the scaling, and they were like, wow, that question, what makes you that number and not lower? Like, up until that point, I'd found it really hard to kind of think about what's worked in the past. Actually, I found that really hard when you talked about that in the beginning. But when he said about the scaling, and we got to experience that, and it's like, actually, what makes me that number and not lower? It was a game changer. So, and somebody else said just how I kind of interact with my overthinking, that I can just start to think, actually, come on. One person was like, come on, how have you managed things in the past? Come on, have a word with yourself. So I loved how they challenged me, and that through the experience, and even one young person came up at the end and was like, right, if I'm going to be having a conversation with a younger student and they're talking to me about, what they want to be different around homework. So, and I'm going to kind of invite them to describe to me what that, is. And then what do I do if, so they were it was just great how engaged they were. But I think, what I learned from those, those exchanges with young people in that kind of learning experiences, I don't know whether any of those young people have had therapy or counselling or coaching in the past, and that's not obviously something that I would ask them. But what I loved was that in learning about solution focused in that setting, to be able to support other students, that it also made a difference to how they interacted, or they hoped to interact with themselves in the future. That it was a shift in Aussie's come to join us. It was a shift for them in how they would interact with themselves, as well as students that they may support.
So the messages that they would be sending themselves are now going to be changing as well.
But that when I asked that question of what's your takeaway, that it was about their support of other students, but also about, well, actually mainly around how they would interact with themselves in their self-talk and how they might support friends as well.
What an amazing, really, truly amazing experience, Tara, you know, and giving these students the opportunity to think differently and to find themselves in a place where they can truly be authentic.
Yeah.
Right? They can share their thoughts, they can share their hopes, they can share their queries, and it's all safe.
Yeah.
It's all safe and it's all real, and you're not going to judge them if they push back, right? You're just going to give them this opportunity to reflect on this new learning. I think that's just fantastic.
Yeah.
And yeah, and what did you find, what surfaced for you as the most meaningful aspect of this session?
I think something that, you know, that obviously is such a huge part of solution focused is that I went in there, you know, I was prepared, but there was such a sort of balance. There was of power, you know, that them being experts for their lives and experts for their curiosity, experts for their learning, and that they felt, as you said, sort of safe and comfortable to be able to challenge me, and so they should, you know, there should be no environment, I don't think, where, you know, appropriately people can be challenged, and that actually, you know, I kind of got there and I was like, oh, I'm a little bit nervous, you know, I've been doing this for a really long time, and I'm like, because I'd literally come from, you know, doing one-to-one sessions all day with the wonderful lower school students, and then I'm like, oh, I'm arriving into a classroom, because I'm not in a class, I always say to the teachers that I train, you know, it's like, wow, hats off, because so I go into the classroom, literally a whole classroom full of young people, and I'm like, oh, I hadn't really sort of visualized that and thought about my, you know, I knew what my preferred future was in terms of how I hoped it would go, but I was like, oh, so yeah, I was quite nervous, you know. They were being experts for themselves. There was just a really sort of beautiful balance of power across it, and they challenged me, and I think that's, well, I hope from that came even greater learning and space for them to explore themselves and the approach, and yeah,
and the opportunity to have really rich and in-depth subsequent conversations, right? Where, you know, they leave thinking, wow, you know, and unpacking everything they've learned. And now they know that they can come back at a future time and have more questions and go deeper in their learning. So this is a beautiful way to learn. And these are amazing skills for these student leaders to be able to share with their peers, their younger peers. What a marvelous, marvelous opportunity. Thank you so much, Tara.
Oh,
Is there
you.
anything else you would like to add before we go today?
No, I don't think so. No, I just, yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's really lovely. I've been thinking about it a lot since yesterday, so it's really lovely, you know, to be able to have the opportunity to share it, you know, and I'm really grateful. I'm really grateful to be in a school where I get to have the opportunity to be able to to work in this way, where they really support student leadership, student involvement, and they believe in solution focused approach and the difference that it can make. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you so much,
Thank
Tara.
you, as always.
As
Thanks,
always.
everybody. Thanks for listening.
Everybody, we'll see you next time.
See you
Bye-bye.
soon.